Hello and welcome to our last show before Christmas. What does that mean? Well, essentially it means, have you seen this man? Reports say that he's porky, a pagan, and prefers to break into a home using the chimney. So if you have seen the owner of this hat, please phone your local neighborhood watch as soon as possible. He is wanted for popping into roughly 3 billion homes in an evening. This week on Go Open, the only open source technology show in the world ever in the history of the word ever, which is quite long. We're going on a hemispherical trip, which is a trip kind of like that. It goes from Brazil, home of the nuts, how festive, to Bombay, the place where you too can buy a cricket match anytime you have the correct number of dollars. We'll also be finding out about the games that smart people play. I think that's more woo as opposed to And of course our competition, where you can win cool gadgets from people like LG, which is short for LG, and HP, or some lovely clothes from Soviet.
Open source software exists as a result of the combined efforts of millions of computer programmers, users, and software vendors from around the world. They share their intellectual property freely, and they believe that software should cost nothing and should enrich the lives of users. Open source software is the alternative and biggest challenger to closed source or proprietary software. It generally costs the user nothing. It can be distributed freely to anyone. Download it, use it, modify it, and give it away. It's a whole new world. Open source is the future of computing.
So, how is open source changing the lives of those people who live in those countries that are named developing? Well, from Brazil to South Africa, that's home of the nuts, South Africa, home of the, well, we're also nuts, to Calcutta, spicy nuts, and mainland China, which is basically the south of Johannesburg. Everyone in that part of the world is saying yes, yes, goodness yes, ooh yes, yes, wow, ooh yes, to open source. And here's why.
Open source is taking over the world, especially the developing world, from Brazil in South America to our own shores to India and China, creating an arc imaginatively called the Southern Smile. We have many problems in common, and open source is one way for us to share our resources, especially that most valuable commodity of all, intellectual capital, brain power. Developing countries are now collaborating more and more, and open source is not only part of the share and share alike philosophy, but also a major driving force.
If we are able to combine our talents, then the amount of investment that we put in our research and development activities, the returns on that are much higher.
Ntantla Mabaso has been working on the CSIR's open source initiative for several years, examining the introduction of open source to government and parastatals. They have tied up with similar organizations in Southern Smile countries to overcome common problems.
The cost argument diminishes the whole debate. It's a bit like arguing whether it's more expensive to have apartheid or not, and what is the cost of freedom. In reality, freedom should be free of charge, but it may come at a cost, yet it's still worth it.
In India, an experiment to test how well children from underprivileged areas respond to new technology has resulted in an exciting project here in South Africa.
Professor Sugata Mitra of NEET, he started a project called the Hole in the Wall. And there he put a computer system in a hole, in a wall next to a slum, right next to where he was working. And he learned that very soon they taught themselves the basics of a computer. So we have replicated that project in South Africa. The Digital Doorway is an initiative between the CSR and the private and the public sector. The concept is minimally invasive education, and that term basically implies that there's no teacher. We put down equipment, and the users from the community come and they teach themselves how to use a computer just by exploring and playing around with the applications. They try different things and they learn at their own pace. And that way we hope to increase the computer literacy skills in South Africa.
Sam is a young man from Mamelodi near Pretoria. Both his parents are dead, and he has been forced to leave school to support himself by selling newspapers. But Sam has not given up on his education, and thanks to the Digital Doorway, he can pursue a newfound interest: computing.
I get everything inside the computer, so I can learn even if I don't go to school. I learn everything.
Like the Indian hole in the wall,
The digital doorway is a robust computer built to survive continuous hard usage. It is running the open source Linux operating system with educational and office programs. It is also connected to the internet.
And what's your favorite website?
My favorite website is from Mendoza.
Oh, Mendoza website. Of all the Southern Smile countries, India is the one we have the most in common with. And there's certainly a lot that we can learn from each other. Taking their lead in the call center arena, we're starting to think globally and act locally.
At the HPI community in rural Limpopo, local people are involved in a pilot project to establish a call center, a phone-in help desk for hire. They use open source software written for the task.
We're looking at doing the support for the new 441 product, which is worldwide. So we'd have people phoning from Australia, from New Zealand, wherever in the world, Norway and so on. We'll do the support for them. South Africa has been recognized as a place where, and it's not because of cheaper labor or anything like that, it's just a place where we've got the technology, we've got the infrastructure, we've got everything here. And now they've realized that because of our timelines, we can compete with the rest of the world.
The Southern Smile Initiative has support from the government, and open source is making everybody sit up and take notice, not least of all for the opportunities it is presenting.
Well, look, in South Africa there must be an ability to develop our local software industry. But as long as we're operating on the basis of proprietary software, it's going to limit the ability for us to free up the potential. We can build up local industries, we can be proudly South African, we can support that campaign.
John Mad Dog Hall is our international guest. He's the Executive Director of Linux International, which promotes Linux internationally. Bit of a twist in the end there. Mark Chase hooked up with him via video conference. How technological.
Welcome to Go Open, the world's first show dealing with open source technology and methodology. Now, first up, let's talk about free versus open.
I think the real problem there is that people are only concentrating on the traditional ways of thinking about software. Now, what people really want, in our estimation, is really service. And that brings us back to having the bulk of software being able to be available over the net. And then you pay your money to have it tailored exactly to what your needs are.
If you get software for free, then how does the development of that software get paid for?
There are people who say, well, I'm a consultant or I'm working for a large company, and the fact that I write this free software gives me recognition inside of the programming community, and perhaps somebody will hire me to do a job.
What are the hidden costs associated with proprietary software?
What happens if a computer company goes out of business and it's that company's email system that you're using to run your government? Can you maintain that yourselves without the source code of that email system? And if people say that, well, that's why I pick a large company like Microsoft to be able to run my company or buy my software from, because they're a large company, well, then I can answer back and I can say Wang or Prime or Data General or Digital Equipment Corporation or Compaq, which were all large companies in their time, but which no longer exist.
A lot of end users who haven't come across Linux or perhaps have heard about it, they don't really quite understand that it could be quite easy to use. How would you respond to that?
Well, I would suggest that they simply take a little time out and try it. Either by perhaps coming to an event like Linux World and taking a look at it, or they could perhaps visit a university or ask for some consulting firm to come in and present them a presentation on what Linux is like. Today, Linux is shipping on about 1/3 of all the server systems that are shipping. Another third is proprietary and commercial Unix systems, and another third is Microsoft products of different types. Today it's used on most of the supercomputers which are being developed, and quite a few of them which are already in use. This coming December, there will be a supercomputer of 10,000 processors which will be using Linux to help predict the weather as part of NASA's ongoing studies. That will be the largest computer in the world.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been really interesting, and good luck with your adventures.
Coming up later, we bring you something really hot. It's some of the coolest open source websites around. So hot and cold. Ideally, it's your sort of perfect Sunday family lunch or something. Now, Raymond Costa is a young man who's almost completely deaf, but he can use, through open source, the internet to communicate as much as he wants.
14-year-old Raymond Kosa lives in the small town of Mokopane in the Limpopo province. He was born a healthy, normal child. But as Raymond got older, he wasn't developing quite like other children. By the time he turned 10, his parents realized that something was seriously wrong.
Raymond uthomile hearing problem.
Raymond uthomile ka the year 2000. Raymond diagnosed ka moraga go sekolong ba sno ba re bitsa several times. Then le rena ra thoma go observe. Then from there,
Although Raymond's mom was advised by the doctors to send him to a school for the hearing impaired, Raymond refused. But his schoolwork was suffering, and his teachers were finding it hard to communicate with him.
Was it not difficult to teach him because of his hearing disability?
Since I'm not trained to deal with people of that disability, I had to develop some methods to accommodate him. I couldn't just leave him alone with those instructions.
Shoki Majui is a tutor at the HPI Community Center, which runs open source computer training for the public. She encouraged Raymond to enroll in one of her courses.
During June holidays, we usually train the community, including learners, so that we can accommodate them. That's how I met Raymond. Raymond was one of my best learners because even he has this disability, he could do anything.
The HPI community is run entirely using open source software, which is integral to the computer learning that happens here. One of the motivating factors in using open source is that it allows the community to become self-sufficient.
Shoki, did you have a background in open source and computing before you got your qualification from the center?
Yes, I did, and it is very helpful because it's different from other software because it is affordable. You don't have to buy it. It won't cost a lot because if I have it, everyone has it.
In his course, Raymond picked up skills early and has learned a variety of open source applications which he's using at school and in his everyday life.
He's able to do internet and search for informations, and sometimes he used to come to me, Mommy, I find the information about the doctor who can help me. Then we try to consult the doctor, and sometimes if I'm going to host meetings for ECD, Raymond used to make programs for me.
Initially a shy and reserved child, Raymond has newfound confidence and is determined to lead a normal life. With access to the internet and email at the HPI Community Center just 5 minutes from his home, the world is at his fingertips.
Right now, he's a changed person because of the computer, and I know he's going to be completely changed and he's going to enjoy the way he is.
It's time to meet our Geek of the Week, and this week, none other than Kogendra Naidu. How's it?
Well, thanks, John.
You got quite a fascinating story. I'm not one of those interviewers who kind of says the whole thing and then you repeat it, and then I go, ooh, tell us your story.
Well, I started a company with a very small company with a bunch of friends about 5 years ago odd. And in the process, entered a very niche market of doing database consulting, Unix-based, on very large systems, terabyte systems. And I collaborated on a piece of software that does database migrations.
Okay, let's just explain to people out there, what is database that thing?
Just about everything you do nowadays relies on some sort of database. Everything from your banking to your medical aid to everything. It's just basically a collection of information.
Your software was sort of seen by many people all over the world on that website.
Some people in America actually found it. Anyway, it was one of the directors that got a hold of me, and he said, do you have a passport? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, would you like to come over? And I said, I tell you what, if you paid my air travel and my expenses, I'd do it for free. And he was not, get out of here. He didn't think I was for real until I actually landed in Florida. I essentially migrated their system that was taking 17 hours. I did it in about 3.5.
Sure, and you didn't charge them at any point?
Well, that's the beauty of it, is they took me to Disney World and I went to NASA, and they really showed me a righteous time, and they were really a beautiful bunch of people. And one of the greatest things about open source is actually it's a meritocracy. It's about people that want the recognition of their peers.
Are there financial rewards to what you've done?
Definitely. The costing model is service-based. And essentially in the emerging markets that we have today, the service-based model is proving itself to be far more robust and more marketable, and definitely more friendlier model from a business perspective.
It's Kagendra Naidu. Coming up next, another local hero. And of course, our competition. We can win gadgets and gear and all sorts of things that click and whir and buzz in the night. Kagendra, thanks very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Cheers. Ever had the feeling that you want to boot your computer right in our kernels? Well, possibly you should try booting it with a CD. And to explain all that, here's Mark, while I just talk to myself a little.
Today we're doing it live. A live CD is a way of trying out a whole new operating system on your computer without affecting the software that's already installed. Now, a live CD will run slower than software that's actually installed on your hard drive because the CD is actually slower than a hard drive. But it's still a fantastic way to show people what Linux is all about, or to put Linux onto a new computer and see whether or not it's going to run.
There are several different live CDs available, and the best place to find them is on the Frozen Tech website. Download your version, burn it to CD, and there you go. The great thing about a live CD is that you literally just stick it in the CD-ROM drive and it boots up as if the operating system has already been installed.
A live CD lets you see all of the applications that you'll get on Linux, even if they're running slowly, without affecting any of the software on your PC. Look forward to seeing you again next week.
For more information on booting Linux from CD or anything in this program, please visit our website, www.goopensource.org, where you can also order a free CD with free programs for Windows. We'll even post it to you for free as well. Viva the revolution, open source will set you free. If you don't know how it works, call a geek, call a super geek. In fact, call the Uber Duper Super Geeks, the Freedom League of Geeks, which is far more effective when dealing with computers than the League of Leaks.
Reporting for duty, sir!
At ease, soldier.
What is the Geek Freedom League about, sir?
Well, Rafugwe, the Geek Freedom League is about forming an army of geeks all across the country that help us in liberating computers from proprietary software.
How do we liberate people's computers?
See, most computers run proprietary software. It's not that people choose to install proprietary software. It's really that they aren't given a choice. It's all they're given when they buy their computer. So what we need is one computer, one Go Open CD, and one geek. The geek is going to take the software that's on this disk over here and install it on people's computers.
Do I have to have a lot of technical knowledge about open source software in order to become a Freedom League geek?
No, you don't. Installing software is really, really easy. First step is to log on to our website, goopensource.org/freedom, and register yourself as a geek.
What incentives are there to become a geek?
Once you've reached a count of 10, so you've installed 10 pieces of software on people's computers, you then get your geek kit. Your geek kit consists of this t-shirt, a geek bag, another 20 CDs so that you can install open source software on 20 more computers. You get this Freedom League cap, and you also get this Geek Freedom League lanyard. The holder of this card is bound by their conscience to promote and install open source software. Raphael, we're making you an honorary geek.
I am honored to serve the League.
Let's go install some software.
Now you know you're not alone. At any time you need a hand, just call on the Freedom League and they will be on hand to help you with whatever you might need. Because it's a weird, wild, wonderful, worldwide web, and this week we're going to look at 3 open source projects that you can access by simply using the internet.
Now that the festive season has hit, you might want to get into the spirit of things by downloading the free and open source Christmas version of Tetris. Get it from www.steinsoft.net and look for it in the projects folder under Games. It's the same Tetris you know and love, but themed and packaged with a corny song that's guaranteed to drive you insane. Now, if you want to regain your composure and get a sense of peace and harmony, be sure to surf to www.csszengarden.com. While the site might look and feel good, there's a whole lot more to it than meets the eye. It's actually a project that shows the power of something called Cascading Style Sheets, or CSS. CSS is a design tool for the internet in which a single template instructs the entire website how to present text and pictures. Every single page you're seeing has exactly the same content, only the template is different. And the magic of Cascading Style Sheets is that you can literally change the design of an entire website by making a single change in your template. Which leads us straight into the arms of the international Linux community at www.linuxgazette.com. This is essentially a communal blog, a self-made news reference for anyone interested in Linux or anyone who wants to learn more. If you've always been terrified of dipping your toe into the Linux world, Linux Gazette will hold your hand through pretty much any query you might have. Boffins of the world, unite! Here are the sites we've talked about today. First off, we had www.steinsoft.net for the naggingly addictive Christmas version of Tetris. Then, serenity returned when we surfed to www.csszengarden.com, where we meditated on the beauty and inner magic of cascading style sheets. Lastly, the community spirit at www.linuxgazette.com helped us feel that the open source movement is open to all of us, even those of us who can't pronounce Linux. Or is that Linux?
As promised, you can win. Absolutely, we have great prizes from HP. Wow. The PhotoSmart camera and printer bundle, which is a big bundle which has a camera and a printer in, and there's a 17-inch flat screen monitor from LG and 2 DVD writers, also from the same people. Plus there are 2 1,000 Rand gift vouchers from Soviet Jeans. All you have to do is answer the simple question. Southern Smile is the name given to A, the way you're greeted in Cape Town, B, an ice shelf in Antarctica, or C, the developing countries using open source. SMS your answer, plus your name to 34357. The SMSs are charged at 2 Rand each. And as they say in Zimbabwe, if you rob Mugabe, everyone's a winner in an election. Last week's competition winners are...
Janine Lachransi, she wins a 17-inch LG monitor. Shesare Pillay and Praveen Singh each win LG DVD writers. Cecilia Newhoff and Marion Lewis win 1,000 Rand Soviet Jeans vouchers each. And Brian Erasmus walks away with that stylish HP bundle, a digital camera and printer.
Now, due to Christmas and New Year, which happen annually, we'll be off air for about 2 weeks. Off air is something like this. But never mind. In the meanwhile, you can visit our website, which is bush, that's www. Which is just a dot, really, and goopensource.org. In the meanwhile, join us on the 8th of January for another exciting, amazing, fascinating, splendid, sophisticated, sparkly, glittering, action-packed cavalcade of information about open source on Go Open. And of course, please, if you do have such a thing, please have a blessed Christmas. Or if you don't have that, then just have a blessed, just general period where Christians go mad and everyone buys everything, lots of nuts, a turkey. If you're a turkey, in for a bit of a lousy time, sorry about that. And if you're from Brakpan, groeten.